What's up, guys? Danny Carlson here. I'm your co-host, and today I have a really special guest. It's Kevin Pasco, one of the co-founders of Nested Naturals, which is, they're doing about $10 million, 8 figures on Amazon FBA right now. Very, very impressive, especially considering that Kevin is 25 years old. You're 25?
I'm 26 next week, so.
26 next week, man. Making me look bad. But I'm super inspired by what Kevin and his partner Jeremy have been able to achieve with Nested Naturals. So I got some really cool questions for him here. So the first thing I want to start out with, Kevin, is, I mean, it's pretty easy to skip, you skip if you're making $10 million on the internet, but I'm sure there's more to the story than that, right? You didn't just start Nested Naturals and just learn all these skills and just start an amazing, successful business, right?
Totally. No, dude, that's exactly what happened. No, I'm just kidding. How far back do you want me to go? You want me to go right back to the beginning, or let's go back to the beginning.
Totally.
All right. So real beginning, I was 16, and I never did that well in school. So I was like a C student, maybe sometimes D. Like a B was good, and I think that I'm smart. I think I'm a smart person.
It's pretty self-evident.
Well, yeah,
right?
maybe now, but it never really showed up in the form of grades. So I was always a little bit discouraged, and I was always like being pushed to go in that direction. I always had like a little bit of a passion for just creative stuff, like website building, like not even making money, just like website stuff. So I started poking around with that. Never really learned how to code, but more like kind of the design part. And then I went to a seminar or something that my dad recommended me to go to of someone that he was interested in, which was basically how he could retire and have an online business. And that never ended up working out. But what it did get me into was the world of online marketing, affiliate marketing, SEO, PPC, like just all the real like nitty-gritty stuff. So I was 16 and playing around with that, and I was fascinated because I loved how challenging it was, how different, and just there was no rules. Like if you wanted to set up an affiliate website and drive traffic this way, you could do that. If you wanted to be an investor and buy websites, you could do that. There's so many different things that you could do. So I always thought that, deep down inside I have this passion to like be different, and at times it's really lonely, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later. But I always kind of knew that I would do something later down the road that was cool and big. And like when you got to think, when you're 16, you're like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. Like when you're 16, like that is
2
like,
months. It's going to take 2 months, and boom.
I mean, I think that I said by 20. I think I was like, oh, if I work for 4 years, I'm like, I'll be able to do it. That obviously did not end up working out. It never works that way.
Even though all the marketers told you that was how it's going to be, right?
Totally.
Everyone's course.
Everyone's course was like that, and it's like do no work and make like $60,000 a month or something crazy. So that never ended up working out. But what it did get me into was the tactics, and I really learned. And Jeremy and I call it Jeremy, my partner, in Nested, we call it in the trenches. So you're really just slugging it out, you're figuring everything out, you don't have much help, you're just going down this path of like something so interesting and so cool that shows so much promise, but you don't really have much to show for it. Like if anything, I had a little tiny bit of revenue from like one website, and that was it. So went through the trenches for a while, and I got a mentor, which is probably one of many things that had a ripple effect that led to where we are now. So what this was, it was a mentor who was actually involved in one of the programs that my dad wanted to go to, and I believe that we bought one of his programs, and I was just bothering him so many times with questions of like, how do I set up this and how do I set up that? And I think I was the only client of his who actually was using the stuff. Like a lot of people buy make money online stuff, they don't actually end up doing anything with it. So I was just constant, like every day with it. And he reached out and said, hey, would you want to do something together? Basically work for free and help me build a company. And if we make any money from it, I'll share some with you. So that's really how it ended up working out. I did okay with that. It made me enough money for me to move out of the house when I was 18. But then it wasn't long term enough. and then I spent all the money, and I had to move back home at 19. So
what did you spend all the money on, out of curiosity?
So I lived at home. I grew up in Calgary, and I moved out. I actually moved here to Vancouver. So I lived here for 14 months. I got a condo in Cole Harbour. The one really good thing that I got from that was my car. So I bought a Volkswagen Jetta, which I just sold a couple months ago. I had that thing for like 6 years. It was the best car ever. It never broke down. Like, definitely that was a good purchase. But some of the other stuff I bought was stupid. I bought 2 watches that were like $600 each and just dumb stuff. And I ended up running out, and it wasn't so much the fact that I bought stupid things. I bought a couple stupid things. But it was more the fact that I went, holy cow, I'm making, what was it, $5,000 a month or something. This is going to continue forever. Like, I thought that just because you get to that level, that it will continue forever and ever and ever, and it will never stop. And it basically stopped, and I had savings, and I ran out, and I went, oh crap, like, I can't even pay rent at the end of 14 months in this nice, expensive apartment downtown.
Especially in Cole Harbour.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, this was 5 years ago, and rents were a lot cheaper than they are now. In Cole Harbour, it's about 20% more. But so went back home, and this is where I got approached by Jeremy for the idea from Nested. So my mentor at the time had a business partnership venture with me, and he also had one with Jeremy. And the difference with Jeremy's is his was successful. So he was actually running that company for a couple of years. It was doing okay. It wasn't as big as Nested is now, but he was, by most people's definition, successful, working the 4-hour work week. Jeremy talks a bit about that, of his experience. And we connected because we had a lot in common. Like, we had both been through the trenches. We had both had the same frustrations and struggles and made through. Plus, we were interested in the same things. So he actually approached me and said, hey, I think there's a big opportunity for us to do something specifically with supplements, because a big passion of ours is to do something different and have honesty in an industry that isn't so honest. And we thought that Amazon would be a great place to go because they were just starting to blow up. So big frustration when you're a marketer is you work so hard and almost nothing works. So like, you can spend 300 hours on a PPC campaign and it just bombs and goes nowhere and loses money. At least that's what it feels like in the beginning when you don't have your skill set built up. So we felt like, oh, at least there's customers over on Amazon. If we could just convince them to buy us over someone else, we think that we'd be able to get a sale from that.
This is the genesis of Nested Naturals right here, right? So up to this point, with your other ventures and getting started in online marketing stuff, what would you say were the main skill sets that you learned that really helped you when you were starting Nested Naturals? What did you get out of those initial failures or short-term successes that you had?
So, I mean, the interest in the learning is huge, because when you're in the beginning and you don't know what you're doing and you're just trying to figure it all out, you're gonna suck for a while. Like, you're not gonna be as successful as you think you are, so you at least have to care and be interested in the stuff that you're actually doing, even if it doesn't work. So if you really love Facebook ads because you love the creativity and putting all the pieces together, you might suck at that, but at least you like doing it. And being passionate about learning, that's also really important. Getting the skill sets of being totally honest and going to where the people are and following the data, for lack of a better term. So there's kind of a science and an art between creativity and instinct, and then tech skills and data. So if you made all your decisions off of data, products would look really weird. Like, our products are very science-backed. We have a literal research and development team with incredibly smart people with master's and PhD degrees and everything that's really scientific to build out these products. But then we also have the creative side of amazing campaigns, wording, branding, everything from the emotional side that comes in. So I think there's a balance between the two where you have to have the skill set of data, and one is getting the data, period. So there's some amazing tools out there that can give you the data, But then two, you have to be creative as well, because a lot of people are buying into your the feeling that you give them. So we don't just sell supplements, we sell whatever problem we're fixing from the supplements. So when you buy our sleep aid, you're not buying a sleep aid, you're buying a better sleep when it shows up at your doorstep with Amazon Prime in 2 days or less. So that's really what you're getting. And you have to understand that. So you have to be able to listen really well to what's going on in the market and then be able to adapt to that. I've noticed that we have at times become a little bit too adaptable, where it's like if anything changes, we just adapt to it right away. I think that's a really good thing in most cases, because people are not adaptable and they push away change. But at the same time, you really need to remember what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if you adapt to the wrong direction and you go too far, you can actually end up harming your customers or your company. So you need to stay true to the vision, but you still need to be able to change a little bit. So great example is if you try to build a company right now that's focused solely on getting into, I don't know, for example, Toys R Us. Didn't they go bankrupt?
I was gonna say
they went bankrupt like
a
month ago or something. So obviously not the best idea. So you have to be adaptable and go, oh gee, I guess my customers aren't in Toys R Us anymore. Where are they going? Oh, they might be going on Amazon. I'm gonna go look up that, and then change your direction to follow suit. So kind of to summarize, I think being very flexible, while at the same time understanding what's going on. Some of the best, I think, products and some of the best companies are the way they are from just listening to what's happening and not trying to change the world into something that they want to mold. It's just simply to enter into the world, provide value, and if the people and the customers accept them, they'll be embraced and they'll just have this flood of customers.
It's such a powerful thing to learn before getting into nested naturals, and I love that you're bringing this up, because correct me if I'm wrong here, but I bet you a lot of people, they come to you and you're like, oh my goodness, you're 25 years old, you're like, you have all this amazing success, like this is so incredible, like how did this happen in such a short amount of time? But like what you just told us, you started out, you were 16 years old, online hustling, learning all these skills, getting
Definitely.
all the preparation in place. When I was 16 years old, man, I was just worried about, it's like, how can I get a girlfriend? How can I go party? Like, how can I afford money for beer on the weekend? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I've thought about this. I mean, I definitely think that there's a trade-off, and I think that became conscious over time. At the time, all I cared about, and my whole like driver in my mind was really economic. It was like, how can I make money, provide for myself, do something different, have a good life, you know, and I was just thinking about the future. And I missed out on a lot of experiences that other people had. Like, so I didn't go to college, which I think was great for me, might not be great for some other people. It obviously ended up working out for me, and I don't regret it, but I'm conscious of the fact that I definitely missed out on a series of experiences in life that I may not be able to get back. So for example, I was listening to an interview with Scooter Braun, Justin Bieber's manager, who is one of my big influences right now for how he runs his business. So I like the idea of an entertainment type business, and he's a good example of someone who's not sleazy in an industry that's pretty sleazy. So I like a lot of the concepts that he has in his head. And he was saying in an interview, which I totally agree with, that because he didn't go to college and he just he worked for So Def and worked with artists like Ludacris and there's a bunch of others that I'm totally blanking on right now. He got success early, like way more successful than I am now, way earlier than or how old I am now. And he recognized that he missed out on life experiences that he could have gotten. And he was a little bit, I don't know if it was regretful, but he was cognizant of the trade-off. And I think that's something that, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs talk about, and it's tough because you're doing all this hard work and all of this sacrifice, like working late and not going out on weekends and just working like crazy and working 80 hours a week so you don't have to work 40 hours a week in a 9-to-5 job. And you're doing it for a greater purpose. You're doing it for a reason, to set yourself up for the future, to do something further off, to feel challenged, to feel purpose. Like, there's a lot of reasons why. And I definitely think that it's worth it. It's certainly been worth it so far. For what I have now, I'm really glad that I had to suck in high school and then coming out of high school and just all the stuff that I went through then to have what I have now. But in the grand scheme of things, what I have now is nothing compared to what I need to have in the future. So there's this powerful thing going on of like, you need to suck now to be good in the future, but then your mind starts to take over of, well, if you can make it this far, you can go from 0 to 1. Why can't you go from 1 to 10 and then 10 to 100? And that's where this like competitive mindset comes in, at least for me, where it's like, it's not that I'm not grateful for having the size of company that we have, to help as many customers as we do, and to have 18 or 19 people working in an office literally 3 blocks from here, which are working right now, by the way.
Yeah, this is really close by.
Yeah. It's not that I'm not grateful for that, because I am, and I think about it, all the time. I'm so happy to have all these people and these opportunities, and I would never change it for anything. But you're always thinking of what's next. You're always thinking of, okay, it's great that we got to a $10 million company. How do we go to 100? How do we do partnerships and do, investor raises and all these crazy types of things? When you started the company, all you thought about was, man, if I could just make $2,500 a month, I could quit my job and I'd be good. So it's interesting how things change there. I think it's important to think that it's okay to think that there's always something better, and it's okay to always push, but you can't be shitty and complain, and you got to recognize what you have, because what you have now is probably a lot more than what you had before, and it's probably always going to be like that too.
So how do you balance the desire to keep growing and continue like that challenge for yourself and like to see what you can do and all of that? How do you balance that with just being dissatisfied with where you are now? Because you can go like extreme on either ends, right? You can just, if you're extremely dissatisfied with what you've achieved and where you are, then the more successful you get, you're never going to be satisfied, right? So like, how do you find that balance for yourself, or do you do anything to be cognizant of that?
For me, and this is just a totally like honest, straight up answer, I don't know how much it's going to apply to other people who are listening. It probably will to some, but I just feel this deep responsibility to keep going, and I was given so much already. So when you think about it, I grew up in a middle-class home, not poor, not rich, great in the middle. We had food on the table. I had a great mom. Relationship when I was with my dad when I was a kid was good. I had 2 brothers. I was able to go through school fine, go take a risk, not go to university, take all these risks. Plus, we live in one of the greatest countries, if not the greatest country in the world. We have opportunity all around us. You basically you can start a startup with like $100 or less. You can go to Starbucks and work from Wi-Fi. You don't even need your own Wi-Fi connection. So there's so much going on. And for me personally, deep down inside, with the vision that I can see moving forward, there's this like responsibility to do something incredible and to do something really big. So I've thought at times, like, do I really, do I just want to have this like nice little 1-person or 2-person business and do like the 4-hour work week, or not, or just work from home and like, have a family and raise kids, which is really important to me, to raise kids, but to not sacrifice my professional growth for that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with people doing that. I really respect that. I think it's an amazing opportunity for someone to be like a stay-at-home dad and still crush it and make like $1 million a year. Like that you can't say that's bad at all.
That
right?
is
like,
super badass.
Super badass. But I just feel like that's not for me. And I have a vision of doing something A, really big, and then B, if I could get it, like the 1-2 punch would be in multiple verticals. So if I could crush it in the startup space and crush it in e-commerce for this first phase of my life, then maybe go over to real estate investing or the entertainment industry. I have this weird thing at like I have this theory that it's easier to become an actor if you're old. So like think of like movies and TV shows. There's always like an 80-year-old dude, right, who gets like 1 or 2 lines in a show, and it's like, you really think that he's been an actor his whole life? Like, probably not. Like, so I'm like, at the end of it all, I'm gonna go become an actor and be like 75 and get like a line in like a famous movie or something, and just to go crazy all over the place, because there's almost so much opportunity now that it's almost the problem is you can't pick. Like, if I really wanted to, like the Vancouver Film School is a couple blocks from here. There are some massive Hollywood North production companies that are in like literally this part of downtown. If I really wanted to work and become an actor, at least one that got screen time, I could probably do it. Or I could build $1 million company, or I could say screw it and go to Nicaragua and travel. And like, so there's so many things, and I feel like there's a responsibility for me to go as far as I possibly could, because when we started this company, I always imagined it would do well, but I never imagined it would be a $10 million plus company with 18 employees, soon to be 20, and far beyond that, with a huge office space, an in-person team. Like, it's crazy how far you can go when you just say, I want to do something cool and great, let's go do this, instead of thinking in your mind, oh, $1 million a year is the cap, when it's not really the cap, because you can go a lot further than that. So there's a deep responsibility, I think, and just a curiosity and there's just something inside that kicks me to go do it. I don't really know what it is yet, but I'll go figure it out.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. Like, I can definitely relate on, I think that we live in a time that is one of the most exciting times to be alive, where there is literally the most opportunity, one of the most level playing fields there's ever been in history. You know, the internet and computers have totally leveled the playing field when it comes to business, and like, you can start with so little. You have access to literally unlimited information. Everything you need to start any kind of business, you can just go learn that for free. You can take free courses on Stanford's website, free Stanford courses. You won't get the certification unless you pay for it, but that's not the point, right? Such an exciting, opportunistic time that we live in. So like, I also feel almost a pressure, like almost a deep FOMO, fear of missing out, of, hey, if I don't do this right now, I'm missing the boat on the most exciting time there's ever been in human history.
Yeah. There's also that saying of, I've heard Tim Ferriss say before, easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life. And what that means, and I can see this, I kind of like pay attention to other people's life choices and some of my friends and like people I went to high school with, and I can really see that play out. When you make the easy choice and go get a degree, not even to get a degree, but to just take the path that was chosen for you, and kind of hand it to you and say, we'll just go do this. It can often lead to a much harder life than if you made the really hard choices and put in the hard work early on. It sets you up for a super easy life. I mean, a lot of people, I've heard of, even big CEOs all the way to just, entrepreneurs who are traveling the world, they have assistants, they have housekeepers, they have help, they have all this support, and it's because they were able to set themselves up for that. And if you don't make those hard choices early on, it's tough to have both, to have an easy life and not make the hard choices. You have to sacrifice one or the other.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I used to be a carpenter, and that was the whole reason why I started in business, is because I hated being a carpenter. That was the easy choice put in front of me. In high school, there's like some course I can take where I get my college credits for carpentry, and you go in this, and you pretty easily make a decent amount of money pretty quickly. But that life sucks, man. Like that, I don't like being a carpenter. I totally hated it. So I definitely agree with you on that one. So I just want to pull her back a little bit more into some tactical Amazon stuff here for a second. One thing I've heard you mention is that you do have 1 or 2 products that they perform decently better than the other similar products do on Amazon. So for example, if you type in fidget spinner and everyone else is making $50,000 a month, then your fidget spinner is actually making $80,000 a month. So what do you think are the drivers for that? Like how are you getting that extra traffic and that crossover stuff there?
So when we look at this, we do the terminology of baseball. So we look at what's a home run versus what's just a base hit. So a base hit would be to do a fidget spinner and make 10,000 or 20,000 a month. That would be good, but it's you're under the top of the market. When you have products that are either a product comes into an existing market and goes well above and beyond. So this market was doing 50,000 a month, and all of a sudden this competitor comes in, and maybe 6 months or even 4 months later, it's doing 80,000 or 120,000. Or you already see a market that's like that, where there's one guy at the top, the outlier, that is doing that much, and everybody else is like fighting for scraps at the bottom. So when we look at those markets, there's generally stuff that is cognizant across the outliers. And it's usually obviously an incredible amount of reviews and an incredible quality of reviews. So we're not in the weight loss game at all. We don't do any weight loss products. But if you go and look at weight loss products on Amazon, you'll notice that the ones that are crushing it have before and after photos that people have attached to their reviews, and they're very convincing. In fact, some of them have dozens of those. So the review part on Amazon has now become like a competition of who can sell the most in their reviews, and that becomes really popular for products that are crushing it. You can also correlate amount of reviews to monthly sales. So there's a couple tools out there, market intelligence from Viral Launch being one of them, that you can basically use their data to correlate how many reviews they have and how many monthly sales they're doing, and figure out with some simple math how many reviews you would need to do something similar. So that all kind of hinges on you having good brand awareness and a good brand period, a product that actually works and customers really love, something that looks a bit more premium. If you were to see that product on a shelf in whatever store you would normally buy it from, so a vitamin store or a toy store or whatever, would it really look like it's been on the shelf for a long time? It's a product that you would normally see. You would never think twice, oh, why is that product there? Like, it's meant to be there. It's, as you look at some products, you're like, that just looks like it owns the shelf on retail. So you want that type of presence combined with an incredible listing and amazing reviews to back it up, plus great marketing on the other front too. So we gone through that in the past. We decided to do products that we're looking at the market, and then some of those products actually ended up skyrocketing, and we crushed the market, and now we're the number one. And that was just built up over time. And it's about getting all the pieces together. You probably can't be the number one in your market, especially number one way over the others, if you're not crushing it in every aspect. So branding, listing, reviews, everything has to be optimized to a T. I think you get all that stuff together, your chances of rising up are a lot higher. To be fair though, you don't need that. So there's a couple, it all depends on your strategy. If you really want to go knock it out of the park and have the number one product, that's what you would need to do. But there's nothing wrong with having maybe 5 times as more products, but they're all knocking out base hits. Like, a base hit is okay. Like, you need base hits. You can't just go for home runs. So we try and do a mix and a balance of the two. It depends on where you're most comfortable and where you want to take your risk, depending on what product categories you're in.
Yeah, I like that analogy. One interesting analogy that came to mind for me, I used to be a downhill skateboard racer, and I was always like a little bit more conservative with my strategies, like where I'm going to make a pass, like calculated risks. So I would be going for the base hits all the time, but I definitely had buddies who they were going for home runs every single freaking time. You know what I mean? And they would crash out probably 60 or 70% of the time, just because they're just going for it too hard every single time. So yeah, I think that's a really good analogy of you don't need to have home run products all the time, like everyone says. You can have a bunch of base hits and you can still do pretty good, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, that all makes perfect sense. I'm wondering, I don't know if you have any data on this kind of stuff, since obviously Amazon doesn't give you a whole lot of data, but more on the really technical marketing side of things for you marketing nerds out there, I'm wondering how much the Amazon frequently bought together section falls into that. Like if your other Nested Naturals products are showing each other on the frequently bought together section, and if you're cognizant of that, or maybe sending your email list traffic to those products as well, and how much those two things might factor into what we're talking about here.
Frequently bought, that's a good question. We don't have as much data supporting that, although I'm just logically thinking, obviously the more products that your brand has that are frequently bought together, the better. So I guess it's more of a question of how much money do you want to spend and how much time you want to spend going to create that. For a lot of our products, it happens naturally. So I think one thing that you could do if you don't want to put a lot of time and effort and really go geek out about that is just to choose products that would be frequently bought together. So if you have camping gear, you would have a sleeping bag and a pillow. And those two things are most likely going to be frequently bought together. So I think that's kind of in the natural sense the way to get it without really having to work for it or to modify it or to hack it or anything. But with that being said, you could probably do some cool stuff with an email promo. You could, if you have it, and this is the power of having an audience, is we can blast out one email tonight and say, hey, we're going to put these two products on sale. Here's a coupon code. If you go grab them in the next 48 hours, we're going to give you this. And we're going to tell people, which, is companies do this all the time. Like how many times have you seen get this together and get that, or buy two, get one free, or anything like that. If you have a big enough audience, all you have to do is send out one email or make one social media post. Boom, everybody buys it within a 48-hour period. And then you can monitor and see. And see if Amazon sticks it, and then see how that goes over time. It just depends on how much money and time you want to spend on that.
Yeah, it could be super powerful. Like you have a massive email list just to do that stuff, right? So the last thing I want to go into here, Kevin, is I know that you're someone who you do a lot of mastermind group stuff with various other successful business owners. You paid for coaching in the past and stuff like that. We actually met each other on the plane on the way to Capitalism Conference over Ryan Daniel Moransing there, which was a fun coincidence there. So what I want to know is how much of a difference, like what is the main value that you get from these mastermind groups and from the coaching, and how do you evaluate if it's a good opportunity for you personally or not?
Yeah, so without a question, massive value. So the way, at least in the Amazon game, the way it works is usually the good stuff originates in like a mastermind group, or some really smart person is figuring it out and might share a little something here and there, or there might be an idea that pops up and you go, oh, that's a good idea, I should get my team on that. Or there usually originates within the high level groups, probably just because it's high level smart people with all, a common interest put together in the same room. It's just, that's the formula that kind of breeds new innovation and new strategies and new techniques. So then it kind of filters down out from there to courses. And then it goes down to free level podcasts and YouTube and blogs. And we think that tactics are important, and hacks and the little kind of tweaks that you can make that are working now, that's like the short-term stuff. We don't ignore that. You'll hear a lot of people talking about focus on the long game, only focus on what works 10 years from now. I think that's a good mindset to have. We definitely have that mindset, but you can't ignore this short-term stuff that's working right now, because you can use that as like a little level up in your company. And you get a lot of that through masterminds. You get amazing support. You get to talk to smart people that understand what you're going through, can relate to you, and offer amazing ideas that can help grow your company. And when you think about it too, whatever amount of money you spend on a mastermind, if you can't really say at the end of the year that your business grew more than I would even say 10 times, then either it's you or it's just a terrible mastermind and they're charging way too much for it. So use your mind and obviously make the right choice and speak to other people about it. But I can say that we wouldn't have as big of a company if it weren't for being in a mastermind, because of the connections and the opportunities that came from being in one. So that's been hugely powerful, and just as a support network too. Like, you don't want to do this alone. Like, as like hard-assed and as confident and as like hard-charging you can be at times, it's nice to have people around you that totally get it and are just like, man, like that sucked. And you can bitch about it, get it out, and then move on to the next thing and know that you're not an idiot, you're not failing, you're actually really succeeding, because you're in this group with dozens or hundreds of other amazing people. So I would highly recommend it. And I would talk to people, talk to successful people. If there's someone that you really, see that's crushing it, like, just ask them. Just say like, hey, like, do you have a group? Do you know someone who has a group? Like, you'll find out about this stuff a lot through word of mouth and just asking. So then once you go from there, get into it and figure it out. And I think that if you can't get an ROI from it, there's got to be something wrong. Like you got to screw it up. Like, there is no way that you can be a smart, capable person with a decent business and go into a mastermind and not 10x your money. Like, it's just, something's wrong.
Yeah, I love that whole frame of like, yeah, you spend $1,000 on a mastermind, but what you learn there and the people that you meet there and all that stuff, probably going to make you at least $10,000 by, if you actually take action on that stuff, right? Love that frame of mind as an investment instead of an expense. And I really like your point about kind of normalizing all the crazy entrepreneurship stuff too. It's a really good reminder to know that you're not insane because you're around a bunch of other entrepreneurs who are also doing similar stuff, and it's normal to them, right? So it really normalizes it. Like, I remember one of my biggest business mentors, at the time I was going through like a really tough time in business and making some really expensive mistakes. And then he told me a personal story about him getting sued for $13 million and all this crazy stuff, and like he lost everything, and then like he's still good. He rebuilt a business and he's got several very successful businesses now, and really puts it into perspective, right? What you're going through is not the end of the world. Other people have been through crazier or similar things, and so you just got to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who are equally as crazy as you, right?
Yeah, that's equally as great. Yeah, that's good. And I heard just recently at a mastermind a couple weeks ago that you don't want to succeed so slowly that you think you're failing. A lot of people go through that, where in the long run, like, you're just up and to the right the whole time. But if you look at the day-to-day, you feel like you're eating shit even when you have a multi-million-dollar business. So you have to be careful of that. And when you're around other people that are crushing it, or especially people that are lower than you and might have, if a mastermind is good, they should have, certain standards and requirements to be in it. They don't let just anyone in. So there's going to be the low-level people just who made the requirements, and maybe you're at the middle or the top of the pack. You're going to look down and go, oh, I used to be one. Because when we got into the main mastermind that we're in, we just made the cut. Like, I'm telling you, the requirement was like $1 million a year or something. Like, we made the cut by like a day. Like, we just scraped in. And we're there for the first meeting, and that meeting we met a seller who was doing $2 million a month, and we were doing 80 something, and we just went, whoa, like, your mind just explodes when you figure out, like, you think that you're doing good. Just wait until you hear some of what other people are doing, and that really can motivate you and inspire you.
Yeah, I'm super with you on the mastermind things, Kevin. So I've noticed that you've been doing a lot more speaking engagements. You're with us here and doing this podcast. You spoke at Capitalism Conference. It seems you're working on a personal brand, and you're trying to build a platform for maybe getting a certain message out there.
Totally.
Do you have a certain direction that you want to really take your personal brand? It's something you're passionate about sharing with the world?
Yeah, it's something. So I want to treat this like a creative project and do something that goes against the rules of this. Like, because I grew up doing marketing and grew up in my business life, marketing. I'm CMO of Nested, and I think in terms of marketing. So I want to do something that gets out to people, but is done in a totally different way. And my whole thing is I just want to show the realness and not like the Gary Vaynerchuk yelling realness, because like I love Gary Vee, like amazing. He signed a copy of Crush It for me and wrote my name in it. Like I'm framing that. Like the dude is awesome. But there's a certain expectation and there's a certain mold that all entrepreneurs fit into. There's like either get rich and be successful or 4-hour work week, and there isn't much of like a identity in between that when it comes to being an entrepreneur. There's parents, there's young people, there's old people. Like it's very diverse, and I don't really see that showing up in terms of content on YouTube. So I'm just like this dude trying to figure it out, and I'm gonna throw some stuff up on YouTube and just see how it goes and try and show what actually goes on behind the scenes, because I don't think that I've done anything special or remarkable beyond just keep pushing. And that's led me down this path of being able to have, this massive company and, live in this incredible city and have all these amazing things. I get to do podcasts on 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, like, just all these random cool things. And I want to show more of that to just kind of open people's eyes up to see what you can do, especially being so young with no college degree as well. So I don't know what I'm doing. That's moral of the story is I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't care, because we'll figure it out.
Well, Kevin, you certainly have an air of authenticity around you. I love the positioning of what you're trying to do. Just like, this is really how it is to be an entrepreneur, and this is my experience and everything like that. You're also a really good public speaker, so I'm sure you're going to be successful in that venture there. Where can people follow you when it comes to that?
Yeah, so, you probably, damn it, I haven't set it up yet. Bear with me, still working on the social media part. Just Google my name. So look me up on Instagram or YouTube. Those will probably be the 2 biggest things. I think Instagram and YouTube will be like my main hub. So look me up there, connect, shoot me a DM, let me know what's good, and then I'll try and get back to you. So
yeah, guys, and we'll update this in the show notes too. If you go to the blog post for this podcast, actualizefreedom.com/18, then we'll update the links on there once Kevin's got that all set up. But man, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on here.
Thanks for having me, man.
So many golden nuggets just raining down on you. It's super inspiring to see what you're doing at 25 years of age, just a couple blocks away from where we are right now, man.
Come hang out anytime. Door's always open.
Excellent. Yeah, it'd be cool to come see your meditation room and all the awesome stuff I know you got set up in the office there. Well,
yeah, it's fun.
Thank you so much, man. And definitely reach out to Kevin if you want to hear more about his new project going on there. And see you on the next episode.